Welcome back, guys. We are going to talk about all the things that we released last week. Alongside me, we have all of the things that Treehouse released in the past week. If you are unfamiliar with Treehouse, we have a brewery, a coffee roastery, a distillery, and we make a host of non-alcoholic beverages. And we release them on an ongoing, relentless basis every single week. If you want quick access to these releases as they come out, you can follow Treehouse Releases on Instagram. All right, so I'm going to dive right in. Guys, I have to tell you, this past week, just kind of preparing for this video, looking at everything that we released, I think it's one of the most exciting release weeks that we've had in the history of Treehouse. To kick things off, we actually have a non-alcoholic Paloma. Paloma is typically a grapefruit-based cocktail, and essentially what you get here is a grapefruit soda. Super nice, delicious grapefruit flavor without the alcohol. Simple, fresh, delicious. Second beverage we want to highlight is a seltzer that has many fans here at Treehouse. It's called Razzy. Razzy is really special because it has a product called butterfly pea flower tea in it. And the butterfly pea flower tea makes it appear blue in the can. The cool thing about it is that when you add alkalinity or acidity to it, it actually changes color. So if you want to have a little bit of fun and see a little bit of sorcery, squeeze a lemon into this blueberry seltzer and be rewarded with a little bit of magic. That's Razzy. All right, next I want to move on to our cold brew offerings. And the first one I'd like to highlight is this year's Walden. Walden is our autumnal cold brew blend. This year's blend features coffee from Panama and Burundi, and the team constructed it to taste, like autumnal forward things. We get like apple pie, cider, mulled cider, really, really bright, herbal, delicious, light-bodied cold brew. That's Walden. Next coffee I want to highlight is a flagship of ours. Aurora is a coffee that has a little bit of jamminess and fruitiness to it alongside dark chocolate character. Really easy to drink, light body. And in addition to the cold brew, we also released a fresh batch of Aurora whole beans. The nice thing about these is if you're watching from a distance, we can mail these to you. So we'll link the Treehouse store down below and do yourself a favor and check it out. The last coffee-based beverage that I want to highlight is a mega favorite around here amongst the crew and our fans. It's the maple spice latte. All natural ingredients, a little bit of maple, a little bit of spice, a little bit of sweetness. It's autumn in a can. All right, so moving on to our distillery. Everything that Treehouse Distillery makes, we make, mash, distill, ferment in-house. Really important distinction. A lot of crafts out there that source spirit from elsewhere. We always make everything in-house. It's really important to us, and I think it helps develop a character of the region in which we reside. First product that I want to highlight is our hopped bee's knees. It contains honey, lemon, and our hoppy gin, which is called Hildegard von Bingen, which I'll talk about more in just a second. All you have to do with this, pop the cap over ice, give it a quick shake, and you have yourself a hand-mixed cocktail at home that could not be easier to enjoy. Next product I want to highlight, we are super excited about. Look at that beautiful, luxurious Treehouse Distillery box. This box contains what we're calling the Gin Trio. So Treehouse makes more than a half a dozen gins at this point, but these are the three that we wanted to highlight the most. Inside each gift box, you'll have yourself a nice card that explains to you what each gin is. And then, of course, on the back, you'll also have access to the recipes that you can make if you're so lucky as to get yourself a gin trio box for Christmas this year. The three gins that are contained within the box are Percy's, which is our New England dry gin. Super Juniper Forward also contains, apples and New England-centric ingredients to give it its own unique character. The Big Pickle is a Treehouse Distillery innovation, which is a pickle gin. Such a cool spirit. If you are a pickle person, you will love the Big Pickle. And the last gin in the trio honors a woman by the name of Hildegard von Bingen. Hildegard was a Benedictine abbess who was known for characterizing and articulating the value of hops in her writings all the way back in the 12th century. And we decided for our hoppy gin, which features Simcoe and Cascade, to honor her memory in this gin trio box. This is a really luxurious gift, and we find it hard to go wrong with this trio. Moving on to the classic style program, which is the pride and joy of myself and the brewing team here at Treehouse. First beer I want to highlight is literally on my Treehouse Mount Rushmore. It's called Nomad. It's a Czech dark lager. It's smooth, rich, complex, delicious. It'll fade into the background if you want it to, or it will delight you with its complexity and finesse if you choose to pay attention to it. Please don't miss Nomad. It's a crew favorite. It's one of my favorites. I think it's one of the best beers that we make. All right, next crispy beer that I want to highlight is called Canada Gold Sugar Maple. This beer contains a hop called Sasquatch, which I believe is the only Canadian bred hop. And on top of that, once this beer is done conditioning, we condition it again on maple infused oak spires to give it a little bit extra character and a little bit extra sweetness. Definitely don't miss this beer. Down in our Woodstock Farm Brewery this week, we packaged Woodstock Pilsner with Paradisi. Paradisi is a very special hop. It comes from a place called Nelson Lakes Hop Farm, which is way up in the mountains in the Nelson Lake National Park region of the South Island of New Zealand. And I believe Treehouse is the only brewery to have sourced and imported this hop from our friends at Freestyle Hops. Bright, tropical, fruity, delicious, not a lot of bitterness. Paradisi is special. When you see that word on the can, don't pass it up. Old Hat. Old Hat is an American amber lager, super old school, Cascade hops, lagered forever, super crisp, little bit of sweetness, beautiful amber color. Hard to pass this up. Perfect on a cool, crisp autumn day like we have going on behind us today. That's Old Hat. Ace in the Hole. This beer is a time capsule. It is a pre-prohibition lager brewed with old school ingredients like 6-row barley, black malt, little bit of molasses, cluster hops, all the ingredients that people would have had available 100 years ago to make a beer of character and elegance. We revive the style. This is a time capsule in a can. Another hard one to pass up. Speaking of complexity, Cozy is our Baltic Porter. This is personally one of my favorite styles. Essentially a big, dark, fruity, chocolatey beer, lagered for a long time. We typically keep this in stainless for as long as humanly possible. We'll brew it in the late summer, 8 weeks, 12 weeks in stainless steel before it goes into the can. Smooth, rich, higher alcohol content. Great beer to sip around the fire and around the holidays. Hold on to Sunshine. This beer means a lot to us for a lot of different reasons. Fundamentally, it is a beer with chocolate, coffee, peanut butter, rich base, milk stout, little bit of lactose, sweet, easy drinking, lot of complexity, and a reminder that no matter what happens in your life, it's really important that you hold on to at least a little bit of sunshine. So next beer I want to highlight is a barrel-aged beer called Normand. Normand is an homage to my grandfather, my dad's dad, who passed away in 2010. Each time we package this beer, we think of him. This beer was brewed in the summer of 2023, so part of it becomes Amadi, which we talked about last week, which is our base Belgian quad, and part of that batch gets barrel-aged for a little bit over a year and becomes Normand. This beer has a ton of complexity, ton of bourbon character mixing with dark fruit, and it's a great beer to drink around the fire this holiday season. That's Normand. It only comes around once a year, and when you get to enjoy it, it was made over a year ago. So complex beer and great beer worthy of its stately name. Final dark beer that I want to highlight today is a beer called Nightcap. This contains our decaf cold brew called Boca, which we talked about last week. Boca is special because it uses the Swiss water method of decaffeination, which retains more of the base bean's character versus a solvent-based approach, which kind of strips it of all of its character. So Nightcap, decaffeinated, doesn't taste like it, super, super complex and delicious, and won't keep you up all night. Moving into big, juicy hops. I don't think we packaged a single pale ale this week. So everything that we package is either a single or a double IPA, beginning with Double Rainbow. Double Rainbow is notable because when we first came out with it, we started experimenting with super, super pale malt. So this beer will be super bright yellow and opaque in the glass. Wicked, wicked juicy. Southern Hemisphere hops, Northwest American hops. Juicy, hazy, delicious. Double Rainbow. Man, this release week is bananas. I can't even believe we have so many crazy beers all at the same time. King Fern, brand new. The thing that's different about King Fern, bigger hop dose than regular Silver Fern, and we also utilize that Paradisi from Nelson Lakes that I spoke about in Paradisi Lager from Woodstock. Wicked bright, crazy fruit complexity. If you like Silver Fern, any of the Southern Hemisphere beers, do not miss King Fern. It is special. Next couple of beers, honestly, they're a little bit mysterious, and I like not to say too much about them. This is the Riddle, triple IPA, super, super, super juicy. That's all I have to say about that. And of course, you have the Riddle, and then you have the Resolution. companion beer to the Riddle. And trust me, don't miss it. King Triple Julius is arguably one of our most sought after double IPAs. That hasn't changed since its first release. Basically, over the years we had Julius and then Julius and King Julius. And this expression of Julius at the time was the most hoppy, hop dense, juicy beer that we had ever had. It first came out in 2016 and all the way here in 2024. Each time we drink it, it feels like the first time. Loaded with mango, loaded with orange juice character, wicked delicious. Each week we have core beers that we release, and these three I would consider core to our operations. Days actually first came out, I think, in 2021 or 2022 during COVID, when we found a gap in our lineup where we have Haze, obviously, which is our flagship double IPA. We didn't have a single IPA version of it. This is that beer. And when we think about Haze, we think about peach. When we think about Days, we think about peach. So this beer has super peach forward characteristics as a function of the hops that we chose and the yeast that we utilize, yet it's a single IPA that tastes like Haze. Always great to have in the fridge. Green needs no introduction, loaded to the gills with Galaxy and a custom blend of Northwest American hops. This is one of our favorite beers. Juicy, juicy, juicy to the max, a little bit of herbal bitterness on the finish. Always fresh here at Treehouse. And then finally, Doppelganger. Doppelganger is probably one of the more misunderstood core beers. It's basically King Julius, but we utilize a little bit of Amarillo and Mosaic in the dry hop. Makes it a little bit more tropical and punchy with a more potent bitterness on the finish. But again, a great way to think about Doppelganger is that it's essentially King Julius with a little bit more punchiness. Every once in a while, we take green and we add something to it. This beer, I admit, is not for everybody, but those that love it absolutely love it. This is just green with banana added, banana puree. Sometimes we'll use banana chips. There's different methodologies of imparting this fruit character in the beer, but it's always natural ingredients, and that's smooth green, super fresh. If you like bananas, you might like smooth green. All right, guys, thanks for sticking with me. We got just 3 more to go. We have Juice Project, Citra, and Nelson. The concept behind Juice Project was to use a ton of hops only on the cold side, reserving it for the dry hop, post-dry hop, etc. These hop charges are well in excess of what our core beers utilize, so if you want a super punchy, saturated version of Treehouse beer, look out for the Juice Projects. This version features the iconic combination of Citra and Nelson, which it's very hard to go wrong with those two. So that's Juice Project, Citra, and Nelson. Orange juice, Sauvignon Blanc, wonderful beer. Second to last beer we want to highlight is called Treasures of the Deep. This concept comes from the fact that we utilize a base malt called Pearl. Pearl is an English iconic base malt that you've probably heard other brewers talk about, as it's relatively common in the industry. We combine a classic hop trio of Citra, Columbus, and Amarillo in this beer. It's going to pour a little bit deeper orange because of that Pearl malt character. You're going to get a little bit more maltiness, but sometimes that maltiness can actually elevate the juiciness, and it just becomes a mess of tropical hop flavor. That's Treasures of the Deep. This is a beer that I have a hard time even talking about in such a short video because I feel like I could talk about it for about a year. But 10th anniversary Very Hazy, the importance of haze and Very Hazy to Treehouse, not only Treehouse, but arguably the entire brewing industry cannot be overstated. When this beer first came out, beers like it didn't exist. We certainly had beers that had a certain level of haziness to them, but we didn't have the turbid, yellow, opaque beers that have become so commonplace here in 2024. When this beer came out all the way back in 2014. The excitement around it then was huge, and the excitement around Very Hazy still in 2024 is big. What this beer has meant for me personally and to everyone that's contributed to Treehouse cannot be overstated. So to celebrate Very Hazy's 10th anniversary, we just went doubly hard at selecting the hop lots that went into this specific batch, trying to honor that energy that inspires and informs every Treehouse beer that we make. And we hope that we did Very Hazy justice on its 10th anniversary. It's meant the world to us, and I think it's meant the world to a lot of you watching as well. All right, gang, that is 1 week of work here at Treehouse. Again, quality over quantity always, but we've developed an ecosystem here that we think enables us to do both at a very, very high level. Getting to speak on behalf of the team here at Treehouse is such a joy. From the distillery to the roastery to the brewing team, everyone here is super motivated to bring you the best experience possible every time you trust us with your patronage. So I want to thank you guys for watching today, and leave your thoughts down below, and we'll see you next time. Take care.